spirituality is stuff that science just hasn't proven yet. We just don't know what else to call it. We don't know what else to call it.
This is how it works.
Hi, how's it going? Ooh, let me move my camera away. There we go.
Hi.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Are you in Arizona or?
I am.
Oh,
yep.
Cool.
I'm in Scottsdale.
Nice.
I'm in my setup, my Zoom setup for all my podcasts. I just got off talking to Kelly Gores about WellSet, the company that we've invested into, and just, this new aspect of wellness being about not only just the food that we take in, but in the workouts that we do to take care of our body and stay strong and flexible and having, the endurance for life, but then the mental side of it. And that's so much of what we talked about in the podcast, is just about, putting intention into your food before you eat it, and just the energetics of things beyond, and the emotional side of stuff, as opposed to just the hard tangibles like broccoli, lift weights,
It's just not linear. And, it's funny because and then I want to dive into your experience after this. But I'm doing something with WellSet as well. They have me on next week. Yeah, so I'm excited.
I love that. Thank you.
Give the community. Oh yeah, of course. Anything I love. I'm so happy to support. I think it's so great what they're doing. But I was talking with my team who we're creating this app, and so we have to look at everything with super aerial view on how I onboard, a client in the intake. And, there's so many nuances because it's so non-linear when I'm working with someone, it's the energy, it's the feeling, it's your elements, from like a Chinese medicine perspective. It's, and then there's like the Ayurvedic, archetype of you, and it's holistic, but it's also science, and there's so much of it. And it was hard for me to sort of describe. And then one of my girls, she's amazing, she's sort of able to put everything in my intake and the thoughts and the way I ask questions down and paper it on like an Excel, which I don't even know how to do Excel. So she was able to do this with the colors and the categories, and it was so much more tangible to people. So we had a great call earlier, just so that now people can kind of see how it is so nonlinear. It's not just about, what broccoli is or what it does. It's not just about your BMI. It's not about that. It is this completely holistic, inclusive space of all that is you, that is beyond just your physical body, that really kind of gives you that optimization that allows you to live your best life, in the best way. And so it was really and it's all the things you and I talked about in our interview and in your podcast. So it's so fun.
Yeah. You say uptake, and it was like one of the things Kelly and I were just talking about was about functional medicine doctors and just other ways of approaching wellness beyond just sort of like either trauma and specialists, or just standard health and wellness that you would like common sense wise use. And the uptake, like the information that a functional doctor gets from you is everything from like, what do you remember from 0 to 5? Like, what was your birth like? Was the birth a difficult one? What was your mom's pregnancy like? Like, all that stuff matters.
Oh yeah, I know, do all of that. It matters so much. Your favorite food and why, that matters too. And all of it matters, and people don't realize. And there's so much that we do. There's so much conditioning that goes into what we choose to eat that has to do with our experiences from when we're 0 to 5. And, I work with someone that even does imprints before that. So, in that gestational period, even before that, and now we're going to go really far down this, but even, before conception. So there's so much.
Yeah. Imprints. Yeah. Imprints. I know what you're talking about now.
Yes, as you know. and it's wild, right? Like
it's crazy to be able to track all that stuff and have those kinds of people that are tapped into that. But even just the awareness of the fact that it matters.
Yeah. And having those are all tools, just information for you to really empower yourself to have your best life. And so let's kind of segue into one of those experiences that you had and all the learnings that came to you when you were on this part of your journey? And I'm going to allow you to kind of go back and kind of reintroduce why we're going to talk about that today, because it's so cool. Your awakening and one of your experiences that you had, and whatever it is that you want to share about it, because so much of that is very personal as much as it is enlightening. So I'm just excited that you're here. So thank you. I didn't even say thank you. I've been on for like 15 minutes and I didn't even say thank you. So thank you so much.
You're just adorable. I'm happy to be here. I had a pretty a very deeply spiritual or transcendental or some kind of an awakening or awareness happen. And to start from kind of the beginning of it, not the beginning, we don't want to go that far back, but the beginning of time. I've been getting more and more into spirituality. It was probably around 2015-ish, and my girlfriends and I went on this trip to Sedona. There's like 7 of us, and I mean, we did the vortex tours, the labyrinths, the this, the that, the psychics, you name it. We were taking pictures, and these orbs, we were like fascinated. And I'm like, later on found out they're lens flares, but it's okay. It still sent us on our journey. And
whatever, they're angels. They're angels that float around.
Sure, why not? And what's the problem with believing in magic? Right? What's the problem? And in fact, you were talking about spirituality and science. And like, I just kind of think that, spirituality is stuff that science just hasn't proven yet. We just don't know what else to call it. We don't know what else to call it.
This is how it works.
Yep. So I just been getting more and more into that world. And it was 2017. And, just as things kind of tumble into place, and I think maybe people listening can think, to moments or times in their life where this happened, where, just seems so coincidental, or like things just fall into place and something gets canceled and then something better comes along. And it was the beginning of 17, and I was going to go on this trip with the guy I was with then. And he was like, nah, I don't think I want to go. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I'm still going to go on a trip. And so I texted my most woo-woo girlfriend, and I was like, hey, and I didn't think anything. I just knew that we just traveled well. And I was like, hey man, I'm really thinking I'm going on a trip. I'm like, let's go to Tulum. And I had never been there before. But I had been thinking about it. And she reminded me that we had talked about it about 5 years earlier. And I was like, wow. And so it's funny when you're reminded of things that are naturally of interest to you that you've come to somehow forget. And so I was like, oh yeah, well, I guess cool. And so we planned our trip to Tulum. And so it was early in 2017, like early February. And one of the other things that happened is I was reading this book by Elisa Romeo, who wrote a book called Meet Your Soul. She's written other books too, but the main one, the first one that I got, in fact, that whole group of 7 girls that went to Sedona, all were given this book. So like our friend, this girl that I went with, she gave us all that book. Wow. And just before that Sedona trip 2 years earlier, she had just gone to an Elisa Romeo like retreat. And anyway, so she gave us all the book, and I had finally, don't you dare judge me, I had finally finished the book 2 years later, or a year and a half later.
So not one to judge. Don't even worry.
So, and what's weird is that I feel like I finish books when I'm supposed to. Like they have, there's some kind of, I read them when I'm supposed to. I finish them when I'm supposed to. And so the book's called Meet Your Soul, and I had finished it just before I left for this trip. And I remember sitting in North Carolina, like in my little woman cave, I called it, my yoga room. And I was crying at the end of the book because it was just kind of like something was hitting me about it. Anyway, go on this trip with my friend Stacy to Tulum, and we're there for a few days. And, this dog keeps coming around, and like, it was there the first day and day after day. And I named the dog from the first day. I'm like, oh, this dog's Lucy. Like, I don't just name names, right? I don't just name dogs all the time. I just try and pet them. So I named this dog on the first day, and it was weird because every time I really wanted to see this dog, I wouldn't find it. It wouldn't be around. And then I, when you just, I don't know, maybe other people have experienced this before. There's some sort of energetic game going on where, maybe you've noticed in a relationship and a job and I don't know, something like that, where you're really like grasping onto wanting something. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of say, oh, I don't care. But like out of the corner of your eye, you're still looking for that dog. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, when you finally, truly, emotionally, like the real let go, you go, you know what? And you come up with some kind of thing and you feel a lot better about it. You're like, oh, well, and then bam, that dog would just show up. It was like, it was some energetic game going on where it would show up once I truly let go of wanting to see it. And so I saw it for days, and we went to the Cova in Tulum, which is this, ruins, Mayan ruins. And we're walking around the ruins and there was a pack of dogs. And I'm like, man, I think I must have been a stray dog in another life because I'm also always hungry. And then we're gonna get along well. Yeah. And I said, I think, and I was like, this dog, I was like, I feel like this dog is me. I don't even know why I said that. I just said, I feel like this, like Lucy, the dog is me. There was something energetic about it that felt like it was me. Some the way it acted. I don't know. I don't even know why I said that at the time. And so it's day 4, I think now. And so I'm going to loop Zach Bush into this at the end too. So it's day 4 and we go and do this yoga class with a guy named Raphael Shaman. And he just sounds like a yoga teacher. Yeah. And it's supposed to be 2.5 hours long. And it was 3.5 hours long, this yoga class. Mm-hmm. And we had booked a chakra balancing massage that day as well. So we're now late because it's been 3.5 hours. And fast forward to that little chunk of the story. This was the beginning of this year over New Year's. For 2 weeks, I went and stayed in Tulum. And the house that I stayed in was Raphael Shaman's house. And I was like, are you kidding me? When it was getting planned, he said, okay, the reservation for New Year's is under my name. And he wrote his name. And I was like, did you used to teach at Yogashala in Tulum? And he was like, yeah. And so I said, I've taken a class of yours and I had quite the experience after I took your class. And so I was able to ask him about what he did to sort of set the room. And he's like, wow, you noticed that? Like I said, my girlfriend and I thought that the room was foggy even at times. Like we were blinking and it just seemed like foggy almost. And he said, I set the chi field before everyone arrives. And so anyways, like really super tapped in. So anyway, so that's a funny little story, right? Like weaving things together. Yeah. So we did the class, did the chakra balancing. Then we raced on up to one of my favorite places in Tulum called Raw Love. And we got our little smoothie bowl and whatever else we wanted.
Love Raw Love.
Love Raw Love. And we sat there and my friend Stacy was just so giddy and so kind of upbeat. And I said I was annoyed. I'm like, I'm really annoyed with you right now. And so I was just not vibing at the 1,000-degree frequency that she was. And so we went back down to where we were staying. And I told her I was going to go down to the beach and find somewhere that there was some sunshine because it was in the afternoon now. And that maybe I'll veer off from our normal bed that we laid on every day on like the down like left corner. And so I was like, I'm gonna be on the other end. So I walked down and I started looking for a bed and nothing. I'm walking and it's also shaded. So I was like, oh, it's shaded, it's not any better. And I just kind of kept walking and looking. Anyway, I go and I end up at the bed that we've been at every day. And I sat down and instantly the dog was next to me and I just transported. I don't know. So it was like I sat down and then all of a sudden it was like it was this shaft of energy kind of coming up from where I was sitting, like diagonally. Yeah. And it was just a shaft of energy. It was just seemed kind of like white energy. Mm-hmm. And there was nothing in it other than an awareness. And the awareness was that no matter how far you go, no matter how long you're gone from truth, from source, from God, from whatever you want to call it, no matter how far, how long you're gone or whatever you've done, it's okay. We always love you. And that there's no need for forgiveness because we never judged in the first place. And I was like, whoa, it was like this just like huge amount of love. And it was totally, I don't know if my eyes were open. I don't know if my eyes were closed. I don't know how long it was. I don't know if it was a millisecond in some other time, space, reality, or if I was sitting there for minutes. Like, I don't know. It just, the information was so profound and so powerful. And I just don't remember what was happening when that information was coming in. And I just sat with that dog and I just started bawling after that happened. I was just bawling and bawling in like joy of this awareness and this love. It was so overwhelming. There was no other emotion I had for it. It wasn't like it's just I had to get out that energy because there was so much love and energy. And I was just bawling and bawling. And I finally kind of got my shit together. And then my friend came down and I had just stopped crying. And she looked at me and I just started bawling again. And she goes, "Oh no, God, are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's okay. It's Lucy. It's the dog, and it's my soul. Like, it really." And so the book, Meet Your Soul, and so that was kind of when I connected it. I named the dog Lucy, and so that's when I knew. I was like, "Oh my gosh, my soul's name is Lucy." And so it was like this dog was some kind of transport, some sort of like transportation, some sort of connection to another frequency, and a guide of some sort. And
your
so
higher source, it's your higher self.
Yeah. And so then I interviewed Zach Bush and I was telling him about this story and he was like, interesting. He's like, okay. He's like, so another aspect of that into getting into the energy and the frequency of a space, which I think Tulum is really powerful. Every time I go, something powerful happens. And he was like, well, you know, when you are in that space, it takes 3 full days to for your microbiome to shift to your new environment. So if you were there and you're loving up on dogs and, you know, your microbiome now is of the environment. So you're like super deeply connected with that space. So it happened on day 4. And yeah, it just was one of those things that just showed me that there's something else. I had never had a transcendental moment like that. I had never had such a deeply spiritual and out of this world experience. And it just showed me how much more there is. And so I haven't had one since like that. And you can't force it. It's like there's so many people and God bless, like you can probably kind of force some of those kinds of moments. It's like, even I love Joe Dispenza and I think that's one of the things that he really tries to do with his meditations and his 4 a.m. pineal gland meditations and things like that. And it's like, yeah, well, my transcendental moment came when I just went and sat down on a bed on a beach. Like you can't force spirituality. You can't force the connection. You just have to help get into the spaces that get you there. But there's and also when you want something so badly, there's also that equal and opposite energetic grasp. Grasping is a resistance as well, because the universe also hears you saying, "I don't have it," when you want something so badly. And so it was just a really profound experience that 100% changed me for life, and just this awareness of how much more there is.
Wow, that is so beautiful, and I'm so grateful to you for sharing it today with us. Like, that was so special, and I'm hearing this for the first time too, you guys. I know there's like a little over 1,000 of you on here, and that was just a really beautiful moment that we got to all share because you shared that story with us. And I love that. Just a reminder that it really happens when you let go. Right. And so what you're talking about and that wanting something, that's what I call attachment, you know, and one of my very first teachers, my very first mentor, Rob, this was back when I didn't know what was going on. You know, I was kind of like coming out of my, you know, recovery of the surgery where I almost died that I had shared with you about. And I was kind of like figuring out culinary alchemy in terms of how to add on to that healing with food. And then I had this healer, Noel, that's the one who invited me out to Santa Fe. But at the same time, I had this healer, his name is Rob, and he is he's kind of all over the place, but he's based out of Spain, out of Barcelona. And he was really talking to me about attachment and being unattached. And there's this difference, and I'd never really understood it until he explained to me. So being unattached doesn't mean you're disconnected. You know, people think that, let's say when we're removing cords or disconnecting ourselves from others, that it's like there's a severance and we are like that, those energies are like out of our life, for example. And that's not the case. It's just being in your sovereign space is really the way I kind of like look at it when we're talking about not being attached, you know, just being unattached to any outcome, anything, any person, any place, and just really being in this present moment, really being within your own space, you know, really being in your own sovereign energy and knowing that this is enough, that this is fulfilling, that this is richness, this is wholeness, this is all of it. And then that actually it sort of attunes you to know what is in alignment with you and what is not. Because when you're in this place of like just total neutrality, just being completely unattached to anything, you can kind of tune into what does come in. Does this feel strong? Is there a drop in energy? Does it feel consistent with where I'm at, where I am? Does it feel like it might even be vibrating at a different frequency, at a different level? You can actually tune into that when it comes to anything that comes into you, whether it's a person, it's a place, it's a situation, a thought, anything. You can kind of tune into it and feel whether or not it is in alignment for you, something that maybe you kind of elevate to, or maybe you might have to drop your frequency a little bit, and then is that in alignment for you? So what you're saying, you know, as you're talking about just like not letting go of seeing Lucy again, you know, letting go that's really you just kind of being completely in that space of that generous present moment, right? Like just being really just so just you're in your own space and it's all of it, and it's more than enough, it's everything. And when you're there, when you're completely unattached, when you've let go of all of their things, that's when everything starts to come in. You know, that's when things that you, I don't want to use the word need, but things that are supposed to come into you, and whatever is in alignment for you and your soul, that's what comes in. And it's so beautiful what you shared. And I think you're right. I think Dr. Joe Dispenza really does try to teach us how to do that in his way when he talks about nothingness, you know, and like thinking about nothing. He uses those words. It is, you are trying to think about nothing, but you're really just trying to disconnect to everything so that you're just in the space of you. You're just in the space of this. Right. And then that's when you connect to your higher self. That's when you connect to pure consciousness. That's when you connect with that love that is so pure, that is so unconditional, that you're emotional when you feel that feeling, because it's like, it's how do you even describe it, right?
Right. And because we're just a point of perception, you know, and our life is just a series of points of perception.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. It's just like the simple example is like you can choose to look at something as being good or bad. You can find reasons for both. And so, you know, when you can allow yourself to get past the point of perception that you are, you then connect with everything else. And I think this is that space where people like Akashic readers and, you know, people like that, psychics that are really intuitive, they like get beyond their point of perception, and then everything else is out there. And I think that's what consciousness is just sort of like electrical web of information out there that is a tuning frequency. Like you just have to tune into it. And, you know, when you understand that we're just vibrating beings, like we're not really like this stuff that we think, you know, we're not something, we're just kind of consciousness wearing this suit. That there's something, it's like there's a great book, Untethered Soul, if no one's ever read it. It's a great book. And it's like the fact that you are aware that you have thoughts means that you're not the thoughts. Otherwise you wouldn't have awareness that you're having thoughts. They would just be, it's like the drop in the ocean, you know? So, you know, there's something higher beyond and far more, you know, like Neil deGrasse Tyson said it the best at the end when I asked him about what he wanted to come away with in this life or what questions he wanted to answer. He's like, I'm afraid that I don't even know the right questions to ask. And that is kind of the human journey, is that, you know, it's kind of constantly unfolding and opening up, and, you know, there's a lot of mystery out there. but we're all doing our best to try and figure it out. And that's where you come in, and people that are tapped in and have that sort of reach and drive and tuning frequency.
Yeah, well, and and thank you for those kind words. I mean, I really feel like that's where we all come in, because we are. It's just such a beautiful moment, right? When you feel that sense and you know that you are a part of everything and everything is a part of you, and you don't feel that separation between yourself and everything that's around you. It's just it's a profound and really beautiful moment. And because we are all connected, we can all really have those experiences. And remembering that, it's like the reminder that I always want to tell people is that, Danica had this incredible experience. And again, we're so grateful. I'm so grateful that you shared it with us. And I share my experiences here sometimes. I don't know that I share them. I don't know when I do, but it comes out and the things that I learn. But the reminder is that we all have those experiences, and we can all have those experiences because we ultimately are all the same. We are all connected. There is an energy that connects all of us because we are all a part of that same energy.
So I've just always thought, like, as a silly example, I've thought to myself, like a long time ago, I remember thinking about, I remember I was in Charlotte, living in Charlotte, and I was driving to the airport, and they had cleared out across from the airport that we all used to fly. They was like a smaller FBO. It wasn't the main one. They'd cleared out an entire field to build a building, and like there was tons of trees. It was all trees, and it was gone. It was just like a huge amount. And I just remember feeling like, trees. And it's like in that moment you go, why do I care, right? It's because we're all connected. It's like why something can happen to someone, you see on the news, or you read something in your feed about something that is about a child or about something happening in a country, and you can feel that. It's like you can feel that because we're all connected in sort of this, higher way. And otherwise, why would it matter, right? Yeah. Otherwise, why wouldn't it just be something happening somewhere else?
Yeah, and that's such a good reminder. And on that note, just as much as we can feel when those fires are burning in Australia, we can feel for those animals. As you were saying, when things happen in other parts of the world and we can feel, and we have that empathy for them, it's because we are all connected. But in the same way, in that same tone, we can also send that energy. We can feel and send that love, and we can connect on that frequency.
So true.
To anyone, anywhere in the world.
Yeah, you're so right. Sending love, right? That works too. It's like, have you heard about the meditation experiments that are done where there'd be a mass meditation in a city and the crime would drop to 0 or something like that? Like during the time frame that the meditations was going on, this is all trackable, and how the frequency can get anchored so strongly. And, I think that's why, what do they say? Like it takes, I don't know, 1% of the population or something to shift their consciousness and their frequency. And it is enough to influence the rest. Like it's enough to create the needed momentum to shift everything. And so, that's the goal, right?
Yeah. It 100% is. And so I think that's why, and I just want to take a moment to just acknowledge our audience, because you guys are amazing. And I've just seen so many beautiful comments that have come in. I know there's been a lot, so I've missed a lot of them as well. But just thank you for being here with us and sharing the space and being so present with us in this moment and learning from this. And I think this is exactly why we do this, right? This is exactly why we come on here and we share our experiences and our knowledge so that you can take that and share, and just reminders for ourselves, reminders for you guys that it is that we are all connected, and it only takes a little bit for us to really raise that kind of vibration and kind of elevate the frequency in the whole world. And so even moments like this, or whatever it is that you took from this, that share that with your community, and that elevates the frequency just within your own space, and that continues to grow. So just wanted to acknowledge the audience for that.
Beautiful. You have a great audience. Everybody's so wonderful. They have such nice things to say. You always have such a great group of people, such a big group of people. So You're doing a great job.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I mean, and a lot of these are your people too, and you have beautiful people, and it's so great that it's just great for us to be able to come on here and talk about something that is different, you know, from the topics that not just what I have on here. Sometimes, I mean, I kind of cover a lot of things in that space, and I know you in your podcast, but there's so many different conversations going on right now in the world about things that may not be giving people really accessible tools within ourselves to help ourselves and help the world around us. So I so appreciate you just coming on here again and having a chat and sharing this. I thought it was just really beautiful. And again, the reminder to everyone is that, you know, you had this moment and it wasn't, you didn't have to wake up at 4 a.m. to have this really intense meditation, and you didn't have to go to, you know, Machu Picchu, or, you know, it was you had this moment on the beach, and it was just really connecting with you, and letting go of any judgment, you know, letting go of any like wants, needs, desires that made you feel like you didn't have what you need to be whole and you. And in that moment, you had this profound experience. So
really beautifully said. So true.
So, okay, well, I don't know if you want to answer any questions. I don't know if there are questions. I know that I don't know how much time you have with us. It's already been about 5 minutes, but
go for it.
Well, you know what? Let's, just because the timing is so perfect for this, I know that there's some people kind of on and off, but maybe we could just share a little bit more about WellSet, since you guys kind of started that today. And, you know, there are people here that have the same interest, just, you know, and this is not a plug or anything, guys. It's just a group that I really love and support, and Danica really loves, and such a really helpful tool for
I should tell you the story of how it came about, because that's like the total alignment thing. It all just flowed into place. And so it was last spring, I had this idea. I remember just sort of spontaneously having this idea. What if there was a platform that had alternative and holistic healing modalities? Like, how do you find the best, you know, Reiki master? How do you find the best, like, psychic? How do you find the best functional medicine doctor? How do you find the best anything from that world that is so, I always call it the Wild West, because it's just, you're not really sure how to trust it. And of course, it's not quite tangible. It's not like, it's really one of those things that's based on referrals. It's like if someone says, you know, hey, I've got this great Akashic reader, she was amazing, then you go, okay, great. But it's not, you don't just go through the yellow pages or just Google something to find. Like, you're probably not gonna, it's hard to know if that's a trustworthy source or not. And so it's like, what if there was some kind of platform for this? And then Kelly and I had chatted, Kelly Gores, and who did the Heal documentary that maybe some of you guys have seen. If you haven't, it's on Netflix. It's a wonderful doc.
Kelly and I went to college together too, and so
oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we were in the same sorority. That's how I know Kels. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
that's crazy.
It's amazing. I love her. So we're all in alignment.
That's so great. How funny. Well, I'm sure we're back here again in this lifetime together to go, okay, girls, we're going to do it. We're going to go deeper this time. You know, we're going to keep our platforms. But so she had this idea, and she said, hey, I want to talk to you about something, as concept that came up. And so it was in her mind too, like, what if there was a healing platform for people that goes beyond? And the reason why, so the funny thing is that I actually thought of Kelly for it, because I thought, okay, Kelly knows, because in the Heal documentary, there are so many wonderful, wonderful people in that space, whether they're Joe Dispenza or Bruce Lipton or any of those people, they're all in that space. And I was like, Kelly would be a perfect person to do this with, because she has a lot of contacts already. Anyway, so then we talked, and I was like, oh my God, I've been thinking this exact same thing. And so she's like, oh. And so then she said, well, there's this company, WellSet, they're trying to do it. And I was like, wow, that's just like so cool that it all came together so well. So anyway, that was last year, that was last summer. And here we are now with this amazing platform of like 20,000 practitioners. And it's actually reaching, what is it, like Blue Cross Blue Shield?
They're approved, I think, to
Blue Cross Blue Shield is a partner now. So to be able to work in a space that is so much more accessible for people. Insurance. Have a hard time with that word, insurance. But
it's really amazing. I mean, that, and I think also that just, it kind of gives us a little taste of the future, you know, like that we're finally headed in the right direction, and baby steps, right? But that's okay. So as long as like we're heading in the right direction now, and to have like Blue Cross Blue Shield and that acknowledgement and just taking that step, I mean, that to me is what I've been, you know, working towards, you know, like wishing for, hoping that all of this is eventually going to go in that direction. I mean, every time I do any sort of like New Year predictions on where health is going to be, I'm like, well, Reiki is going to be a regular thing that insurance is going to cover, energy work, and it's going to be part of, you know, the whole program. It's just
thank you for helping manifest this. We're anchoring quite the energy here. So we're doing a big reopen next week, and there's classes, and I'm going to lead a workout class, and we're all going to kind of do our thing to get people involved. But such a cool platform, and the fact that it already had some groundwork started. I mean, Tegan, the founder, she is just a brilliant mind, and so it's like it was great that there was already some infrastructure in place, because it makes things go so much faster. So so it's a really cool thing. I can't wait to see the directions, because that's the thing about this kind of platform, is it kind of adapts to what will be, you know, what's the future, and give people more options. I mean, how many times have people had something wrong with them and they can't figure it out? Number one, you can't figure it out yourself. And then you go to a doctor and they can't figure it out. And it's like, what is it? And it's something that you obviously aren't able to get to it with a pill. You aren't able to get to it with a, you know, stretching or a modality of some sort that is, you need something new, and you need something more holistic and energetic. And so, so I'm really excited about it, proud of it. And I'm glad that you're helping out with everything.
I met Tegan a couple years ago at Mind Body Greens Revitalize, and this is kind of when this was all sort of in the beginning, when it was percolating. Such a great thing. So I've done a few classes on it last year, and for you guys, they're doing this incredible relaunch for the next 3 weeks starting today. I will have a class as well next Monday, and so I'll post and share about that. But I encourage you guys to go take a look, because if for nothing else, it's going to be such a powerful tool for you, you know, a powerful tool for you and the people that you love and care about. Just another way to just to add to like your resources, to kind of like figuring out what can you do to help yourself feel even better, you know, in every way. So it's like your mind, your body, soul, all of it. So it's incredible.
Yeah. And I think that one of the aspects of wellness that's people are really wrapping their head around being important is this aspect of emotions and their thoughts. And so it's going beyond just sort of the stuff that we've been practicing, whether it's you know, stretching, or whether it's eating a broccoli or something like that. It's going beyond that, and understanding that there's so much more out there in the quantum field, and the metaphysical, which is just meta, just being around the physical. It's the stuff we can't see. And, you know, I also think that's one of those things too, that is new for a lot of people. And, you know, for those who have, you know, there might be resistance. Like someone might say, oh, that's weird, you know, like a husband or a wife or somebody or a parent being like, oh, what is that? That's not going to work. It's like, you know what? There's a lot of stuff out there, and even if we just look at the placebo, which is a sugar pill, right? The placebo works 30% of the time. Which means it works. Which means it works. It's the mind. That's how much that's how much powerful the mind is, that it can influence, even when that's not even trying to be accomplished. You're not even trying to use the mind, but the mind has still that much influence. And so imagine now if you cultivated a practice of using your mind, applying your mind, training your mind. We're just a program, which is why you got to be careful what kind of programming you put in front of you, which is, I'm so grateful there's so many people on here, because this is, you know, this is not someone else's decision of programming. This is not propaganda. This is just a couple of people that have lived a certain kind of life and want to share what the heck that is and what it did for them. And, you know, and that there are other options out there. And so, you know, that just to follow your intuition, and that even if it does seem different or weird to some, or to even to you, it's that, you know, great things never came from comfort zones. So if these are new, step outside of your comfort zone and try something different. And you might find it's like, if it's, what is it? The definition of insanity is when you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if you're living a life where you're doing the same thing and getting the same result, that's how it goes. And you have to try something new in order to shift that.
Yeah. I mean, I think an important reminder in that case is to know that there's always options. There's always another way. You just haven't explored it yet, you know. And a lot of my audience knows I talk about mindset a lot here, and just how powerful we are, because all our solutions, everything that we need to know, all our answers are within, and we so often go to the external to find what it is that we need, when really everything is really in our internal. And because, you know, we're talking about mind so much, we did have actually several questions about meditation. And so, you know, we just have just a little under 10 minutes left. Maybe we can share, if you can share what your process is in terms of your meditation practice. What it is that you do, what's worked for you, what hasn't, you know, for beginners and people who have, you know, been doing it but want to try a different style.
So I think this is great. I love the idea if there was some kind of mindful modalities, because there's a lot of ways to do things. It's like everybody always thinks to themselves, like, I'm not doing it right. Like, I'm not meditating right. I'm not doing it right. And right is subjective, and it's all up to you and how it feels. So, and it's an interesting question, because I do quite differently. I'm not a huge fan. First off, spirituality for me comes and goes in waves, and I don't stay regimented. Like, I can be so determined, and I can be so regimented, and I don't do that with spirituality. And part of me thinks it's because with a lot of things, there's an end goal. There's like a certain point that I want to get to, whether it's some weight I want to lift, or some way I want to look, or some jeans I want to fit into, or some, you know, business I want to grow, whatever it is. There's some kind of like end point that I can anchor to. And with spirituality, I don't know what the end point is. To me, it's just it will never end. And in fact, that's the journey of life over and over again, is this ongoing, like, this is some micro moment of the macro of existence, and that, you know, this is just one cycle. And so I don't have an end point, so I don't stay super regimented, which is nice, because then I'm not hard on myself. You know, I'm not judgmental if I don't meditate for 2 months. But then I do for 2 months. But my favorite practice, which I spoke about the book Heal, Meet Your Soul. I really love doing soul journaling. I really love, so soul journaling is one, but I also do it just open dialogue journaling. So a lot of times my meditation will be kind of getting quiet. I'm going to like go do some like belly breathing, deep breaths. I might sort of breathe into each chakra and just kind of feel if there's a message, or even if there's energy blocking, and then I just breathe into it more to bring energy into it. And so I do that with all my chakras. And then I sit there and I do try and get sort of that, you know, Joe Dispenza led way of getting beyond the body and imagining myself connected to everything and being everything. And sometimes that kind of has its journey, and I might disappear a little bit, which is always fun when you're like, whoa, I don't remember some of that. I know I went somewhere. But other times, if it's like my mind doesn't get there, then I just sit there and I just start talking to either my higher self or other guides or ascended masters or people that I want to have conversations with. So that's the most common thing for me, is to get to that where I just have the dialogue. But I do set the stage before. It's accessible at any moment, but if I'm sitting down for meditation, that's a lot of times I'll take a little bit of time to quiet. But then I just ask questions. And so like, I encourage people to just start talking to yourself, like your inner child, your higher self, whatever you want to call it. Like maybe just create a relationship, create a dialogue. Maybe he or she doesn't have a name. Maybe they do. And then you just start asking, like, I always start really simple. I start with like, hi, how are you? You know, I really like, because it's not, look, we do it every day. So I sort of lead into it nicely and slowly. And then I just start asking questions. Sometimes I have 5 questions. Sometimes I have 15 questions, and it just varies, but it's amazing what information comes through. And my advice is that to not think too much, right? To be really present in that whatever comes first to mind, like, and it should be really quick, and it's probably pretty concise. That's my experience. I don't know if it's yours or not, but I always feel like the information is like, you know, something like, you know what you should be doing, or like, you know, or like just play, or it's always really concise, and it's and it comes without pause. And if there's too much pause, then the ego tries to come up with a story, and so I know that's the end. But yeah, that's what I love doing. And then I think what's something that's just really beautiful, that's simple and easy, is to just truly just get out into nature. And I call them more like moving meditations, where you don't necessarily have to meditate. You're just in nature, and you're like with the energy of nature. And it's pretty, I don't know anyone that goes out in nature and thinks, well, I'm having a worse day now. You know, it's always uplifting. So if it's putting your feet in the grass and grounding and getting connected to the earth, or if it's getting out and breathing the oxygen in nature with the trees and bushes and bugs all flying around, just, you know, get connected.
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think it's really helpful too, again, for people to know that there's so many different ways. That's really just sort of like dropping into you and being present, and however you do that is kind of like your way, whether it's you're walking, doing like a walking meditation, if you're out in nature. It doesn't have to be that you're in a sacred corner of your house and you're sitting there for an hour. That may be how it looks like for some people, but it looks different for everyone. And it's always like you just have to kind of figure out like what is attuned for you, and that may change too in different periods of your life. I would say like one of the most important things, if you're just getting started, or let's say you have a meditation practice and for whatever reason it's really not working for you, you're not connecting to it as much, is just like to let's take away the judgment, you know, not to judge yourself as you're going through that process. It's if you have a thought, then it's okay, you had a thought, and maybe like circle back to home base. And that home base could be a grounding thought, it could be a mantra, it could be an affirmation, it just could be something that kind of brings you back, like this is your home base for this period of time that you're giving yourself to kind of just like be, right? But the biggest thing is just don't judge yourself. You know, you're doing it. You set aside some time, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, and just kind of like being with yourself. That action and that thought and that intention of even doing that is in so many ways like it's an act of self-care and self-love. And so honor yourself for even doing that. Honor yourself for even trying, and to kind of like remove that judgment is something that I would just remind everybody of, because everyone does it in different ways. You know, and everyone has like different experiences, but it's really just about getting quiet, getting still, being with yourself, being really present, and then allowing whatever is supposed to flow into you to flow in. So, yeah.
Very true. Well said again.
Well, okay, so we're coming up to the hour. I could talk to you forever. I'm definitely texting you after this. Wait, we have text, right? Okay, I'm definitely texting you after this so that we can figure out next week. I would love to see you when I'm in Scottsdale. Be there for a few days if you're around. But thank you so much. You really are just such a blessing and such just a beautiful goddess and a beautiful soul. And I'm really grateful that you took the time to be here and share today.
You're just the sweetest thing. I hope some of your sweetness rubs off on me. I love it. Thank you.
Oh, you're so funny.
Thanks everybody for being on too. Yes. This is it's really cool. It's I love seeing so many people engaged in a conversation like this. So thanks.
Yeah, this is great. You guys are awesome. And I know there's still so many comments coming in. Send them through. You know, you guys know where Danica is. Her account is tagged here. A lot of you guys are already following her and all the amazing things she's doing. So if you have any other questions, message me. You can also text me. But we will definitely have this replay up in a few days in case you miss any parts of it or you want to share. So there's a lot of learning here today. All right. Thank you guys so much. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a good day. Bye.